Oh, snap. You can leave those on or you can take them off. It's your call.
No, I'm totally wearing this. Woo!
Okay, then. Hey, everybody. I finally got Liz back on.
Hi, with all the shiny.
Yes. So we have now seen, after actually successfully avoiding spoilers for a week, we've now seen Endgame.
Yes, we have.
And we're going to talk about it. We will alert you when we're going to get into flat out spoiler territory, but if you want to do what we did, which was to go into the movie with as little even sense of, like, I haven't even watched full reviews, then, maybe don't watch this at all. But, like, okay, just broad impression.
I really liked it. I thought it was like a suitable ending to this whole saga and story. I really liked how they tied some things up. I think I can say that Rocket was snarky without that being a spoiler, and that he brought some levity to it.
Yep. I think that is not a spoiler.
Spoiler free, so I enjoyed him. There were certain characters I wanted to see a little more of that were alive after the snap. And I think they could have incorporated more. But all in all, I was pretty happy. We did not go to the bathroom once, so I was really proud of us.
We were super impressed with us. A 3-hour plus movie. Neither of us got up to go to the bathroom.
No.
That was pretty...
So, yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say that I love this movie as much as I love other Marvel movies, but this is an impressive achievement. Because, first of all, it is a 3-hour plus movie. Yeah. And
it doesn't feel that way, though.
It does not. I was never bored. And, like, this is going to be...
which is impressive for me, because I'm easily distractible and, like da-da-da-da-da, and
this might
squirrel,
be You? No. This might be an odd comparison, but it struck me almost more like marathoning, like the last 3 episodes of a TV show.
When you're, like, super intense.
In that it doesn't do the thing that most long movies do, which is to tell a story that could probably be told in a shorter amount of time, but just take a long time to do it. This was actually a pretty brisk story. I mean, they took moments to pause, but it was a pretty brisk story, and it was always moving forward. It just had a lot to do. And so it felt way more justified in its runtime than most things that creep up over 2.5 hours.
And I think without spoiling, we can say it was definitely had some nice homage moments to the whole series.
It was properly a celebration of the entire franchise up until this point. And I think that if you're trying to avoid any even possible degree of spoilers, that's your cue to, like, head out. If you like the MCU, I don't see how you can't, like, get something out of this. Probably a lot of somethings. So oh God, you know what? Heck with it. We're just gonna talk spoilers from now on. We're not gonna bother censoring. Yep. So, Thanos gets killed quickly.
Which I was not expecting. I was like, what? Okay. Because I thought most of it would be like, my thought was that somehow they would be trying to take like a stone off at a time or somehow destroy it remotely. I didn't quite know what was going on. I thought that would be most of the movie. This was not at all what I was expecting. And I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As this thing went along, like, I didn't have specific expectations of what I wanted it to be, but I still, like, every major plot turn, I'm like, okay, I would not have called them doing that. And actually, what I like about Thanos getting killed at the front end, and then obviously showing up again later for the climax because of timey-wiminess, but...
Timey-wimey.
Yeah, what I like about that initial thing is that not only does he get taken off the board and you're like, what the heck do we do now? That he destroyed the gauntlet. So he destroyed their means of ever being able to fix it. And it really just leaves me going, well, crap. What
do they do now?
What does anybody do now? Like, what? And I do like that they even kind of took the breath to show people trying to move forward with their lives and not like very obviously not having a ton of success in doing that.
Yeah. You could tell that, like, Natasha.
Oh man, this broke her.
Oh yeah, and Captain America, and obviously Clint. I mean, that was the beginning was like heart wrenching, like where he's just looking around and is like, what? Where is everyone? Because it is his whole family.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, they'll probably. I mean, he is a big family. Like, they'll probably leave him with someone, and I'm like, oh no.
No. He hit the he hit the world's worst jackpot.
Yeah. So yeah, spoilers abound from now on.
Well, I mean, I did already say.
Okay.
So like, and there were lots of little moments that I liked. I liked Cap with that little, like, sort of support meeting thing with the guy talking about going on a date. And then he mentions this with another guy, which I thought was like, oh, that's nice that that's just there. I mean, like, this, it's a nobody. It's not like, oh, Marvel has a gay character. And I was like, they had a gay one-scene day player. But it was still nice. It was a nice moment, and I appreciated it. Regardless. I'm not going to pat them on the back too hard for it, but, like, that was nice. Thank you.
That was nice.
So... Boy, where do we even go from... They put Thor through the ringer, didn't they?
Oh, God. Okay, so that was one of the things
This was one of your few complaints.
I thought, and that was actually something that had been spoiled for me a little bit. I didn't know it was necessarily Thor, but we had a friend that was like, they have a person in a fat suit, and I was like, ooh, really? This is not like Friends in the 1990s. Like, why do we have someone in that? And I was like, not quite sure what they meant, because, again, didn't want spoilers, so didn't look into it. And I was like, they didn't need to go that far.
No, we had this conversation. What I will say, as far as fat suits go, that was not a particularly offensive fat suit. They didn't, like, have this whole thing up and, like, to this bulbous chin and this... They didn't do that.
It was still totally... Any fat suit is... like, unnecessary, in my opinion.
I'll actually agree with that, but I'm just saying, like, on the scale of you already did something wrong, how wrong did you do it? I'm putting it on the lower end of that. But in any case, what I would say, and we had this conversation last night, like, I think it's fully justified that Thor basically gives up and kind of lets himself go. But I think all they had to do was have Chris Hemsworth stop working out for 3 months and lose his definition. That would have been enough.
Or done some kind of, like, you know, CGI kind of trick.
Yeah, they didn't need to have the jiggling about and have him shirtless for his entire first scene.
Yeah. They could put more crud in his hair. Like, that would have worked and given the same impression that he's
more Cheeto dust in the
like,
beard.
And, like, stuff. Yeah. I did like the Big Lebowski comment was great.
Well, you whispered it to me, like, 3 seconds before Tony made that comment, called him Lebowski.
I mean, the shades and the drink in the hand and the, like, beard.
Somebody get that man a White
hair.
Russian.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. No, that was good stuff. You mentioned Rocket. I know that you found his snark to be...
Oh, it was great.
A very necessary balm to the proceedings at times.
I mean, and Scott was a little too dumb at points, and but like there's something great in Rocket, like poking him and being like, "Hey, puppy, like,
do you want to go into space?"
I know. I mean, the thing so is, mean.
Scott's not dumb, but Scott is so far out of his league on this one.
Which I actually did think. For a moment, like when I saw the trailers, when they kept showing Ant-Man, I'm like, he's gonna be important to this, and like his like the quantum realm is gonna be important to it. So when they brought him back, I'm like, there's something going on here. This is where they're gonna find their way to solve things.
So I actually want to talk about the time travel mechanics of this, because I found them really fascinating. For a couple of weeks. So they basically did 2 things, one of which I've never seen done in fiction. Actually, neither of which I've ever seen done in fiction that I can think of. They probably have been, but... So generally speaking, and this gets addressed in the movie repeatedly, where people are like, well, this is how time travel works, because of this movie, and this movie, and this movie, and this movie. And they're like, well, no, those are movies. Are you saying Back to the Future lied to us? But what it's always been before is either... go back to the past, change it, and it changes you when you come back to the present, everything's changed. Or go back to the past and nothing changes because the past already happened with you being part of it. What this does is, what it says is, when you go back, you can do whatever you want, but it will not affect you and your timeline, because even though you've gone back to a past, you are still in your own personal timeline present. And you cannot affect your own personal timeline present because you can't go back to your own personal timeline past. And when you try, it creates a divergent alternate timeline. Now, the alternate timeline I've seen done before, but what was different here is they said, well, no, you create an alternate timeline, you don't get to be on that alternate timeline, you're still on the one you've always been on.
So that makes sense, because there was some times when I was like, how can they have this? Like, how can Thor take his hammer from that timeline?
Well, that was what the Ancient One was explaining to Bruce with the times, and it's why they had to send the stones back to the same point that they were taken to remove the divergent timeline. But what she was explaining was, you create a divergent timeline that will now do its own thing. That's not your timeline. You don't get to exist on that, but you've created one. So the combination of those two created a situation where they get to have all the fun of time travel, of going back and overlapping with past movies, and bringing back so many characters who we haven't seen in ages, either because they're dead or the story has had no use of them, but not completely destroy the continuity of the franchise. Because if they'd done that, if they had just literally rewritten it, it would have kind of taken the fun out of the old movies. You would have gone back and go, well, this isn't even the case anymore. But now it still is, because they're not trying to stop Thanos before he does it. They're trying to get the resources to fix it after the fact. And it's like, it kind of made my head spin, but like in a good way. And I really thought that was clever.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things where I was like, wait, what? Okay, yeah. All right, okay, I guess this works. But now that you've explained it, I think I understand it a little more.
I mean, honestly, I could have gone for one more scene of explanation, but I kind of like technobabble if there's a logic to it.
It is sort of your thing, and you watch more, like, timey-wimey.
I do.
I've obviously seen Back to the Future, all of them, but, like, I haven't seen a lot of time travel things.
I watch enough time travel things to distinguish between a time travel movie and a time loop movie. So that should tell you.
Well, that's honestly not that difficult.
Most people, though, would classify, say, 12 Monkeys as time travel. I file that under time loop and all this other stuff.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yes, I'm getting distracted by my hand. It's a lot of, like, man, like, Thanos, this was heavy on him. I get it.
So, yeah, okay, so some of the characters who we got to see who we haven't seen in a while, or who are dead. We got some additional bits of Loki.
Yes. Yeah, where he's like, yoink.
He's like, thanks, bye.
Which I'm sure made so many of my friends happy.
Yeah, because of course he did, because he's Loki.
Yeah. It was very nice to see Agent Carter back.
Yes.
Again, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the Marvel romances, but the two they had in here are the two I like. So.
Well, it being Peggy and Steve, and Tony and Pepper.
Yeah, Tony and Pepper and Peggy and Steve, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that work really well. And we got Gamora back, kind of, but it's a Gamora from earlier in time, so she has not fallen for Quill yet, which means she'd need him in the balls, which somebody needed to knee him in the balls.
I know, he was, I was very angry with him after the last movie, because he kind of thwarted their plan with his emotions, and so...
It's a good thing the movie came out a year later, because you basically needed a year to calm down on Quill.
Try to forget, and I still was like, all right, you can come back. And the scene, when we first see him, it's him dancing around from the first movie, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess I miss you a little bit, Quill, but...
Oh, I like that they brought back even, like, characters who I never expected to see back. So, like, when they're giving the I guess it was the scepter to S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and I'm like, wait a minute, those are the guys who are actually Hydra, and Tony's like, oh, these guys are S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, actually, they're Hydra. But we didn't know that yet. And then they basically, they start to recreate the scene, the setup for the elevator fight in Winter Soldier, except Steve, because he knows, just leans towards one of them, goes, Hail Hydra, and then they instantly trust him. Oh, God, I loved that. I thought that was genius. They got Robert Redford back for a scene. Like, props, yeah.
The most touching to me was Renee Russo.
Yes.
As Thor's mom. That was good. And
man,
honestly, if we had to have someone back, I was much rather have her back and like be a center focus than Jane Foster, who we saw briefly, but like.
I want somebody to figure out if they used old footage and like maybe cut scenes and alternate takes, because I don't think they actually brought her back on set. I'm gonna make a leap.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a leap.
I don't know, but I was very glad to see her back.
Yeah, no. Thor's mom was a great scene. That was a really touching scene. And actually, I like what they've done with Thor's character trajectory, where his basically the conversation with his mother unburdened him from the responsibility of, but this is your destiny, this is what you're supposed to do, and kind of frees him just to figure out what he wants to do, which he's because, you know, for all the ups and downs of the franchise, Thor has never been unburdened from responsibility.
He's definitely taken, I mean, it's been an awful time for him, even as fun as Ragnarok was, it was like
that was still rough.
Losing your homeland, like, and you've lost your sister and your dad, and like it's rough stuff.
Well, it also seems like they set him up to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
I'm totally cool, because like I'm not sure you can build a movie around Thor again, because if his personal story at this point is just bumming around and figuring out what he wants to do, I'm not sure you get a movie.
They can build those shorts around him.
There you go. I'm not sure that you could get a movie with him as the central figure out of that, but that's totally viable for a supporting player in an ensemble.
Great at comedy anyways. So, he'll fit in with that team. So, I did like that he passed his mantle on to Valkyrie. I would have liked to have seen more of her. I'm like, well, why isn't she teaming up more?
I'm gonna presume that was a scheduling issue.
Yeah,
but it was still nice to see her back. What'd you think of Steve picking up Mjolnir?
Oh, that was great. I was like, hey, he's worthy. All right.
Well, like I saw the hammer get picked up, and I'm like, did Thor summon it? Then I was Thor's hand's not out. I'm like, oh yes. Like I figured it out like a couple seconds before we saw it, who picked it up. I'm like, yes.
Nice. Yeah, I would have liked Captain Marvel a little more too, but they kind of did explain that she is sort of she goes solo a lot. So.
Yeah, well, I think they did a good job of justifying her absence for much of this, because the way that she explains it, you know, and why she doesn't even touch base with Earth that much anymore is Earth has an Avengers. Most other planets don't.
Yeah.
They need me more than you do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Which, that, honestly, fair. That's totally fair. And I feel like that's a good explanation for her being gone in the middle of the chunk of the movie. And I also like that her coming back at the end, while triumphant, was also not a MacGuffin that solved everything. There was still a lot of stuff to do with a lot of people involved in it.
Yeah.
And also, the girl power hero shot.
Yes. I was like, oh, Marvel, it took you how many years to figure out that, like...
You've got all these kick butt women.
Yeah, it took them, like, phase 1 at least to, like, be like, maybe we should have some women. I don't know. Like, maybe we'll start with Black Widow. We'll see how she does.
Yeah. Oh, boy. But, no, that was a nice hero shot, because you had Captain Marvel, you know, holding the gauntlet, and you had Okoye, and you had Shuri, and you had the Wasp, and you had Valkyrie was there, and oh man. And you
have a lot now. And
it was
nice.
It was good.
It was good.
It was good. We did lose some people. So we're hold on. We'll get to that one. Should
we talk about tearjerker moments?
Let's save that.
Okay.
We'll save that. We'll do that as the last character we lost, and then leap into tearjerker moments.
Okay.
So, first one that we lost, who we didn't get back, was Tony. Well, no, not
It wasn't the first that we lost.
No, it wasn't. But that's the first one we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Let me.
You're just like
Yes.
things out and being like, I want to talk about Tony now, and I'm going to try to construct.
This is how my brain works. Welcome.
Chronological master. Good thing you're not in charge of trying to figure out timey-wimey stuff.
Fair. So look, we'll just start with Tony. Forget the rest of.
I would have just said that.
Forget the rest. I'll cut the rest of that. I won't. But we'll start with Tony. So, given that his movie was the one that started the thing, it felt like, in other circumstances, I think it would have been a much more open question, who should be the one who finally ends Thanos? Mm-hmm. But I feel like having it be the guy whose movie kicked off this entire thing makes it much more fitting. Whereas if it wasn't that, it was just like, well, we have all these characters, who should do it? It would have been like, oh, crap, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that felt very appropriate.
It also felt appropriate because he had that time in that life, and because I was sure when the movie started that he had lost Pepper, and the fact that he had been so lucky, whereas like Clint had lost everyone.
Well, Tony was like basically the only one who was doing okay.
Yeah, and who kind of wanted to leave things the way they were.
I mean, not like he was denying other people's pain, but like he found a way to pick up and move on, whereas most others didn't.
Yeah, they didn't have that.
Which actually meant he had the most to lose. Everyone else only had something to gain because they'd already lost everything.
And they made that very clear. Yeah, it was... And I kind of figured he would be the one... He was not going to make it through this movie. He's probably the oldest of the actors in it, I'm guessing. And...
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, and he...
And they let the white show in his beard.
Yeah. It was... I mean, but I do love that part of his decision to enter into this and to, go back in time was to get Peter back. And
yes.
Peter always just ties on my heartstrings. Tony's death was hard for me. I didn't cry the hardest, but he is, of the original Avengers, he is probably my favorite. I love Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner and as the Hulk, but it's not my favorite character, whereas Robert Downey Jr. as the Iron Man and Iron Man character is great. I love Pepper Potts. I love this.
See, that's the thing. What got me choked up in that moment wasn't him dying, it was Pepper saying goodbye to him. And actually the moment that got me was basically her giving him permission to let go, because a big part of what had been driving him for this entire franchise was this sense of, if I don't fix this, no one else will. And her giving him that assurance of, we're gonna be okay, you can go. And
she is together in terms of spouses or loved ones. It's obviously going to be hard, but I think she can do this, and I think she can raise Lil Morgan, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm choking up now. And that's the other thing is, I haven't liked Gwyneth Paltrow in a whole lot. I've always really liked her as Pepper.
She had amazing chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. They were phenomenal together.
And yeah, so they're my Marvel couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just worked, and she just brought a teasing. She brought teasing, but gravitas to the role.
Yeah.
And it was great.
So next we can talk about the one that is kind of the sweeter lot, and he didn't die by the end of the movie, but they're obviously done. Mm-hmm. And that's Steve.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, and I was like, oh, this is really. He's always regretted not having that time with her, and it makes sense, when he saw her in the 70s, that he was just the look on his face and how wistful, and
I knew as soon as he was stepping up onto that time machine and he was the only one going back, I'm like, he's not coming back. Like, I called it immediately.
Yeah.
But it was nice and it was sweet, and I loved his interaction with Sam where, Sam sees the wedding ring. You want to tell me about her? No, I don't think I will.
I know,
with this smile on his face.
Like, this is mine. These years were mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fine. And, like, just the way Bucky and Sam handled it. Like,
Yes.
they just, how they kind of approached him quietly, but knew, when
Yeah.
they saw him.
And I like that.
Bucky's kind of, like, soft smile,
Yeah.
like...
And I like that you can see Sam is terrified at taking that shield. I kind of like that.
He should be. But,
Well,
like,
yeah.
He's got this. I'm excited. I mean, like... They've set it up for some fun. So.
And then
Oh God.
there's Natasha.
Oh, that was the one that killed me. The whole thing that was where I cried the most. Was like, I hadn't gone into the movie expecting her to go. Like,
I hadn't either,
I thought
honestly.
they would phase out Captain America and probably Iron Man, and like that was my expectation because that's what most people predicted. But like, yeah, I wasn't expecting Natasha, and that whole scene where they're just struggling, like, I'm gonna go, no, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go, and then when he's hanging there, and she's just like, you gotta let go.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of like really, the Soul Stone scenes really hurt. Like, Gamora really kicked me in the first movie. It makes sense that she came back, but they had to trade someone else.
Yeah, well, and also
almost another life.
Also, she came back from time travel. They
I know,
they couldn't
but
undo what happened.
Do you know
to
what
her.
I'm saying? Emotionally,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes sense that the Soul Stone still needed someone within the realm of the two movies.
And I think that's an interesting contrast because I think the death of Gamora in the previous one hurts because of your affection for her. And as much as I have affection for Natasha, what got me like going, oh God, was Clint and how desperately he did not want her to do this because she was basically the only thing he had left, and he had to watch her die.
Yeah.
And you could see that Jeremy Renner sold that pain very well.
Well, and I think that's also the Soul Stone, is that whoever gives up, and again, it wasn't like Gamora where she did not have consent in this death at all.
No.
He just chucked her. But it obviously had to hurt whoever's giving up that person.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the point of the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
But you've got to let them go. The person who gets the Soul Stone has to have
lost something. Yeah.
Something very dear.
Yep.
So
I know that one. So we can talk Tearjerkers.
So that was my big one.
Well, my big one came fairly early in the movie.
Yeah.
And that was that. And there was
a lot of dad moments for you.
This was dad crying. So yeah, when Scott, after getting out of the quantum realm, and he has no idea what's gone on, and he goes through his whole desperate thing of trying to figure out if his daughter was vanished or not, and
looking like desperately
finding his own name, not finding his daughter.
and
and also, I don't know if you noticed, like checking both sides of these tablets because he has to check under her mother's last name and his own last name to be certain. And then he goes to the house where he thinks she is, and her coming to the door and her seeing him and him like seeing the years and the pain on her face, but being there to hold it, like, oh, damn it. Okay. Yeah, so that was It
was a good thing I had napkins in my purse. I was like, and it's time to get these out.
That was the point that you just leaned down and went, I'll get that for you. And she handed me a napkin. Oh, dang it.
Whereas I had to dip in for Natasha. I was like, oh, dang it.
Yeah, that was the big one for me. But there were other choke up moments when Peter came back and Tony embraced him. That was a choke up moment. Natasha.
Oh, and just Peter being like, like almost he just gets so desperate. Like he is one that can't let go.
Oh man, no, he can't.
I mean, he's a teen. Like he's still a kid, you know, and like he's my new favorite Avenger, obviously, because it's I love Tom Holland. I just really do. He's just so sweetly earnest and like totally sells it. Because sometimes I would be like, oh, that's obnoxious with certain other actors, but he just
See, the thing, I think that earnestness is real because one of the things they've had to do is that he cannot go into press things alone. He always has to go with another actor because they have to stop him spoiling stuff because he just gets so excited. He gets so excited talking about it that he'll just whatever he knows. And like they had reduced scripts specifically for him with as few details as possible as they could get away with him knowing and still act the scene because he can't keep a secret worth a dang.
But you gotta work with that because he's just the cutest. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love him.
I thought the climax was appropriately thrilling. I was wondering for a while when it started to become like the time heist. How do we climax this movie? But that was actually rather clever. The idea of two different Gamoras from two different times, basically their Wi-Fi intermingling. That was.
You mean Nebula's?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Nebula's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Getting crossed.
Yeah,
like,
it took me a minute to figure that out, but yeah, it makes sense.
What I really love about that is not only does it make sense, but it's totally the sort of thing that you would overlook and wouldn't think of, but then goes wrong when you start to do something. You're like, cool, I think we've got everything, and like you enact whatever, and this is like just not even big heist, but like a real life thing. You're like, cool, everything's all set, and then the thing that goes wrong is something that is obvious in hindsight, but you never thought of, and that's exactly what the Nebula thing is. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
I honestly love too that they temporarily lose one of the stones, essentially because they made the Hulk take the stairs. Like they
stairs.
Knocks Tony over.
That hit was a jump scare when he burst through that door and hit. I was like, oh god.
Oh, I also loved it when he's the intermingled Banner and Hulk, and he comes back and he's like, yes, smash.
Is that it feels gratuitous, but. His heart's not in it.
I know. Oh God. Again, just love that actor in that role. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more Carol. We got Shuri back though.
Yes.
I did want to mention that. So we got. I like that. The first three that came through, which Okoye was already alive.
But I mean, she would have been handling Wakanda this whole time.
Yeah,
and she's not super powered.
It's like they're like, yep.
It's like, okay, we know what folks you wish we hadn't gotten rid of in the first place. So Okoye's still been around, but here's to challenge Shuri back. We're sorry.
Sorry about that. Sorry to them. Oh, and speaking of people that came back and were mad. Oh, so mad. Like, Wanda?
Oh, she was pissed. What I loved...
Just the, armor chinking off him, and she's just like...
What I loved was that Thanos totally tried to do... You probably won't get this reference, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thanos totally tried to do an M. Bison moment. He's like, I didn't even know. He totally tried to do, for me, it was Tuesday with her, and she's like, oh... You will know me. It's like, damn. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Although it serves as a reminder, we didn't get Vision back. He's still dead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is why she is mad. We didn't get Loki back permanently. We obviously...
We got Tom Hiddleston back, and he's getting a show on Disney+. Oh, okay. So we'll have the character back. And actually, we'll have Vision back, too, because there's going to be a Scarlet Witch and Vision show as well, which... means either at the start of that show they rebuild Vision, or that, which I don't think they can, given that he was powered by an Infinity Stone, or it's set during the period they were in hiding. I don't know which is the case.
It's hard to keep track of everything they're doing.
They haven't said which is the case. I imagine because it would have been a bit of a spoiler for this if they clarified which was going to be the case.
Yeah.
But
When we didn't get Heimdall back.
No.
Bummer.
It was a proper, like, celebratory closing out of the thing, because I think that's the thing in a lot of cases with these franchise is they almost never have proper closure.
They botched the landing.
Well, most of them don't even have a proper landing because they're designed with the intention to go forever, and then eventually they stop making money and they're just like, this will be the last one. Mm-hmm. And then the few that actually try to go for an ending drop the ball. You know, Dark Knight Rises dropped the ball. Dark Phoenix is probably going to suck. I would say the one that did it best prior to this was actually X-Men Days of Future Past, which, even though they kept making more movies after that, felt very much like a closure, at least on the old cast. But this blows that out of the water easily, and it left things in a state where there's obviously got to be more movies. I want to see these more movies, but if you wanted to end here, I feel like you could do that feeling satisfied and feeling like you had a complete story.
You did, and I also feel like it was almost like, here is the end of this saga, this story. We're passing on the mantle. You know, like, Sam is the new captain. Like, we've established, you know, we're going to have Spidey back. We're going to have Carol back. We're going to have, obviously, T'Challa and Wakanda back. So it's passing on the mantle to the new Avengers in the next phase.
Yeah, and I mean, we know a lot of the movies that are being worked on right now, you know, Guardians 3, and the next Spider-Man comes out later this year, and there's going to be Black Panther 2, and Eternals got announced, which is a cosmic thing.
I'm assuming they're having another Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah, they will.
Eventually.
I don't think they've given a date for it yet, and there's going to be the Black Widow prequel, but what I will be kind of most, not like I want it tomorrow, but like what I'm going to be keeping an eye out for is what they announce as being the next Avengers movie. Because while this doesn't feel like the end of the MCU, it does feel like the end of the Avengers franchise specifically. And I will be really curious to see if they even try to do Avengers again, or if they just let the franchises intermingle in a much more casual sense and don't go for the big team up, at least not for a while.
Yeah, like kind of more establish the characters.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a way to top this for a long time, if at all.
I am curious.
I don't necessarily mean in terms of quality. I mean in terms of scope and scale and spectacle.
I am curious to see how they, how some of the new characters would interact. Would they do a new Avengers? Like, I don't need it right away. I'm just saying, like, it could be interesting.
It could be.
I think they need to play around in their own movies for a while and, like, establish them more, but then, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably likely we'll just get a lot more cross-pollination. Like, you know how Doctor Strange just casually showed up in Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah.
I think that kind of thing is the sort of thing we'll see more of going forward.
Okay, yeah.
So that having a movie specifically built to bring everybody together doesn't feel as necessary, and you don't miss it as much because they're popping up in each other's things more often.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Thor now and
Guardians. Like Thor being in Guardians, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it was good.
And,
it was really good.
I'm also really glad that I waited a week and watched it with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. I was very busy last week.
Yeah, I know you were. But
live performances galore.
Yes. Avengers Endgame. We finally seen it.
I know.
Which means people can stop asking me when the review comes out.
Ta-da!
Although I'm sure, I do not doubt between when we record this and when it goes up on Tuesday, people will keep asking.
Yeah.
But in any case, have you seen it? Of course you have. But what do you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. There's a bunch of stuff to do down there. There's links, there's the Patreon, there's merch. Click on them or don't. If you don't want to, you don't have to, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings, sometimes with a guest. And until next time, this council is adjourned.